Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Happy Friday. This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com, with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Hardwood Handicappers is sponsored by Better Picks, the fantasy app that turns your basketball takes into cash. Download the Better app and use code VSiNPOD to get $10 free, no deposit needed. That's VSINPOD. We have a link for that in the description. It is Friday, December 19th. We are recording this at 10 a.m. Eastern. We have 5 games to talk about tonight, but first I want to talk about what we saw last night because I do have some takes. I mean, we saw Atlanta lose to Charlotte in Trae Young's return. I think that will spark a lot of conversation because a lot of people think that this team is better without Trae, but I actually thought that Trae Young looked fine in that game. He had 8 points, 10 assists. I was only a -3 in 20 minutes. You'd obviously like to see one of your best players, if not your best player, finish it with a positive plus minus, but I don't think he's what killed them. I think that it was pretty evident, though, that once Nickeil Alexander-Walker came in, this team played a lot better. They were plus 23 in Alexander-Walker's minutes, and I do think that there's no coincidence there. Like, that's the guy that's been leading this team without Young on the floor. Like, he's been the point guard for them. He's been their floor general, and he's played really well this season. But I honestly think that when people talk about the Hawks and they talk about, all of Young's deficiencies, I think that Dyson Daniels gets let off the hook a little bit because I think that Dyson Daniels' defense is obviously spectacular, and this is a player that I've been really high on all throughout his career, and I thought that he was going to take a big step with Atlanta when he was moved from New Orleans, but at the same time, his offense has fallen off a cliff this season. I think he's shooting now 15.2% from three. He's only a 61.5% free throw shooter overall. I just think that he's a player that is really hurting them on offense in the same way that, Young is hurting them on defense. I think that you see that a little bit when you kind of look at some of the on-off numbers for this team. I mean, when Trae Young plays with Dyson Daniels, this is a very small sample size, but they only score 114 points per 100 possessions. When Trae plays without Dyson Daniels, they score 129.7 points per 100 possessions. So they become, an elite offense. It's, like I said, it's a very small sample size, but also another lineup combination, Trae Young with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and with no Dyson Daniels, 145.5 points per 100 possessions, which is outrageously high. I just think that we talk a lot about what Young can't do on the defensive end, and it does hurt this team, but I do think it's not fair to him to kind of ignore everything else that's happening around him, and Daniels' offense is a problem. Like, I think that really all he is offering Atlanta at this point is secondary playmaking. I don't think he's a threat to shoot the ball. I don't think teams are really worried whatsoever when he has the ball in his hands, and I just think that that's something else that needs to be taken into consideration when thinking about what this team should look like in the future. So I just kind of wanted to say that there's really nothing they could do about it. I don't think they're going to trade Trae Young. I don't think they're going to trade Dyson Daniels. I'm not sure they should trade either of them. I just think that people ignore a lot of context and they just aren't really fair when looking to bash superstars in this league, especially ones like this that are polarizing. Something else that we saw last night was New Orleans beats Houston outright. That was a game that the Rockets led by over 20 points. Like, it looked like it was going to be a blowout, but this ended up being a Pelicans win. This team continues to be kind of a cash train for bettors. I've said it over the last couple of weeks now. Like, you could ignore their record. See, they're 6-22. It does not matter. They are not going to make the playoffs, but they can be very profitable if you're backing them on the right nights. I mean, they're 12-3 now against the spread over their last 15 games, and they are now getting healthier. Like I mentioned last show, they have Zion Williamson and Jordan Poole back. It's only a matter of time before they get DeJounte Murray back. So this is a team that is now really close to being full strength. And it's a team that this, front office envisioned being a play-in or playoff team when they made that move on draft night to trade their first-round pick next year unprotected for Derek Queen. Like, this is a team that thought that they would be very competitive, and we're now seeing that. And I think that the slow start to the season has given us a really good opportunity to get them at really good numbers. Like I said last night, I thought that plus 10 was just way too much considering how well they had been playing in the weeks prior. And, Houston had been struggling and is struggling coming into that game. So I do think this Pelicans team is one to continue looking out for. I think the Queen has been awesome. I think the Fears has been awesome. And last night, it was really some of the veterans that just kind of stepped in and played well. And when I say veterans, it's like younger veterans like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, but they just played really, really well in that game. And I'm really impressed by this team, and I do think that it's a team that you're going to want to pay attention to, even though it might seem like you should be ignoring them. Another big performance last night from a betting standpoint to me was Cooper Flagg going for 23 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and finishing as a plus 16 in an overtime win over the Pistons. That was a game where I did end up taking Dallas +6. I thought that the Mavericks had a chance to win that game if Anthony Davis played, and Davis did play, but it was Flagg that once again stood out for this Dallas team. I just really think that despite the fact that Knueppel's playing well, and Knueppel played really well last night. I think he had 28 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds in the Hornets win over the Hawks. So he's doing absolutely nothing wrong, and I do think that the actual odds changed to reflect a Knueppel move up the board last night. I think the Flagg was minus 190 at DraftKings before last night. He's minus 185 now, so Knueppel actually made up some ground there. But I do kind of think, and I've been saying this for weeks now, this is Flagg's award, because Flagg is just playing like everything that he was billed to be when he came out of out of college. Like, I think this is a franchise changing player that is billed as a great offensive and defensive player, and he has been that for Dallas. And when you look at just his December stats, he's averaging 24 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game, then also 3.9 assists, 1.4 blocks, 1.1 steals. Sorry, I meant 6.1 rebounds, but he's just lighting up the scoreboard. He's doing it efficiently, and Dallas is winning games. So if he's going to be scoring 18 to 22 points per night and, contributing on both ends of the floor for a competitive team and just kind of looking the part, like when you look at the eye test, he's going to end up winning Rookie of the Year as long as he stays healthy. So I still think that there's some value there at minus 185. Last thing from last night for me is just, I do think that Keyonte George is still alive in the most improved player market. I've been saying that for a couple of days now. It kind of looked like he was fading a bit because the market reflects an award that looks like it will be won by either Denny Avdia, Jalen Johnson, Austin Reeves, or Jalen Duren. Those are 4 guys that have made major leaps this year. They've all been playing at an all-star level. I do think that, we're going to see multiple all-stars out of that group of 4. And I don't really blame the odds makers for having to go those guys atop the list. But I do think that what George has done over the last couple of weeks has been ignored a little bit. I think this is a guy that is coming off a 34.8 assist performance against the Lakers in a game that Lauri Markkanen did not play, and George kept Utah afloat in a competitive loss in that one, in a game that I think a lot of people expected the Lakers to blow the Jazz out. And, breaking down to December numbers like I just did with Flagg, Keyonte George is averaging 27.6 points per game and 6.7 assists per game this month. He has been absolutely sensational on the offensive end of the floor. He has turned into one of the toughest covers in the entire NBA at the guard position, not just for, a third-year player or a young player, just point blank, one of the toughest covers in the league because of his ability to just kind of get to the basket, change pace, shift gears. He can knock down threes off the dribble. He has a good step-back jumper. He is becoming absolutely lethal, and he is becoming a big part of the Jazz's future. And I said it yesterday with JVT, but I do think that Utah has been saying and signaling to other teams that they don't want to trade Markkanen because they believe they're going to be competitive rather soon. It's because of the leap that George has made. Having George and Markkanen moving forward makes Utah a completely different team. So that's a little bit away from the point, but he has just been so good over these last few weeks that I still think at 20-1, which is out there at FanDuel, he is worth a sprinkle to win most improved player. I got him at 25-1 a couple of weeks ago. I still think that there's value there at 20-1. I think he's going to be a big part of this conversation towards the end of the year, especially considering for all of the tanking that the Jazz do and all of the nonsense that they pull with Lauri Markkanen and pulling him out of the lineup every night, seemingly, they really never do it with George. George gets to play as much as possible because I think that they view the reps for George as absolutely crucial and beneficial for his long-term development. So I think he's going to play a ton of games this year as long as he stays healthy, and I think he's going to continue to put up these types of monster performances. All right, well, let's get into some of the games for tonight. We've done enough on last night, although it was a fun night of NBA hoops. We had a ton of games. We're going to have a few more of those over the next couple of weeks because we have, makeup nights almost for these slow NBA Cup games. But yeah, we have some more tonight, 5 games tonight. It starts with the Heat taking on the Celtics in Boston. This is a game where the Celtics are laying 6.5 points. The total is 231.5. Miami is going to be playing without Tyler Hero and Nikola Jovic in this game. That makes this a game that I believe that Boston should win. However, I really don't feel comfortable laying the points with the Celtics because we have seen this team just a little bit less sharp offensively over the last couple of days. And I do think that the Heat can always be counted on to give a really strong effort. That's just the nature of this team with Eric Spoelstra, pulling the strings as the head coach. And that has made it kind of a stay away game for me when looking at the side. I do think that I would lean to the over on the total here because I do think that Miami, even without Hero, they're still going to try to get up and down the floor and let a lot of shots fly. And we know that Boston is a top 5 team in the league when it comes to shooting the 3 ball. And, just whether making it or just taking them, they're going to be letting threes fly. So I think it's going to be a game that is up and down. It is going to be more, offense forward. But I think the only play that I would actually make in this game, and it's a play that I'm making, is Davion Mitchell over 8.5 points at plus 104. We actually cashed on one of these Mitchell points props last week. Or actually maybe it was earlier in this week. I don't know. It all blends together for me, but this is just another game where he's going to be playing without Tyler Hero. He has scored 9+ points in 11 of the last 13 games he has played without Hero. And while Boston does have some good point of attack defenders like Derek White, I just think that the volume we're going to see out of Mitchell in this game is a little too hard to ignore. And he is averaging 10.4 points per game in the games he's played without Hero this season. And Boston is a bottom 5 team in the league when it comes to defending above the break threes. That is a shot that is a big part of Mitchell's shot diet. It's 33% of the points he scores in the season. I also thought about going Andrew Wiggins to go over 12.5 or 13.5 points in this game, just because I do think this is going to be an up and down game and there will be some more shots to go around. And that total is just really low for a player of Wiggins' caliber. But I did end up laying off that and preferring that Mitchell play because Jordan Walsh is a really good wing defender and he will probably be the one that ends up sticking Wiggins in this game. I just think that this is a game where you're going to want to take Mitchell. If you want to take multiple, maybe throw the Wiggins one in there. But I do think 8.5 points is a very reasonable number to play the over with Mitchell here. Next game I want to talk about is the Sixers at Knicks, 7 p.m. Eastern tip. This is a game where New York is laying 4.5 points, totals 229.5, and I am taking the Sixers in this game at +5 and -110 odds. I just kind of think this is a brutal spot for New York. I mean, this is the third game in 4 nights for the Knicks, who won the NBA Cup on Tuesday. They stole a win in Indianapolis last night with Brunson hitting a game winner. It was another game where we kind of saw some really nice performances from some of those Knicks bench players. I've been, kind of praising Tyler Kolek. He had another 16 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds for them off the bench. Really coming into his own as a playmaker with that second unit and giving this team, some more secondary playmaking, some scoring, and some toughness. Like, I think he's a really kind of edgy player, even though he is offensive minded, but definitely a guy that has extended that rotation for Mike Brown and made the Knicks, who are the favorites to win the Eastern Conference and are a definite, NBA title contender, even more dangerous. But I do think that this is a game where something's got to give in terms of motivation and just like effort level and, activity, fatigue, like all of it's working against New York here because they just played some really tough NBA Cup games. They just had to, dig really deeper than they probably thought they had to beat the Pacers last night. And I think that that's going to catch up to them here. I know that Karl-Anthony Towns, Josh Hart, and Mitchell Robinson all rested last night. That should at least help if those 3 are out there tonight and they're feeling a little bit fresher. But Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges all played 34+ minutes. That is going to be somewhat taxing on them. And I do think that the Sixers are going to be very well rested, having not played since Sunday. And I do think that with a team like Philly, with some older players like Paul George and Joel Embiid, that much rest is absolutely huge. I mean, Joel Embiid is listed as questionable tonight with an illness, but the last time we saw him get 4 full days of rest, which is what he's going to have here, he had 39 points and 9 rebounds against the Pacers in a big win for Philly. And I don't think it's crazy to expect him to light it up if he does play tonight. But even if he doesn't, I still think that the speed of the Sixers backcourt, with Tyrese Maxey, with VJ Edgecombe, I think that those guys are going to really give the Knicks some problems with some tired legs. So This is a game Philly keeps close at +5. I'll be playing this for a little bit more than just a unit. I'll probably play it to win 1.5 units, and I might sprinkle the money line on the Sixers. So make sure you head over to VSiN.com if you are a VSiN Pro or if you're interested in becoming a VSiN Pro to see how exactly I'm playing this game. But I do think there's a good chance I sprinkle the money line here. Want to bet smarter this holiday season? VSiN has the perfect gift for you or the sports bettor in your life. Right now, you could take advantage of our holiday special and get VSiN Pro access through May 1st for just $79. That gives you everything we do, including daily best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, AI-powered prop tools and weekly wide receiver cornerback matchup edges, 24/7 video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, complete coverage of every major sport through the spring, from football and hoops to March Madness, the NFL Draft, and the Masters. Plus, you'll get all of our postseason betting guides and expert picks, including for the college football playoffs and the Super Bowl. Don't miss this limited time holiday special. Head to VSiN.com/subscribe and unwrap your betting edge today. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. I think that's a really strong offer. I mentioned the Black Friday offer a couple weeks ago. This one's really right there with it. And I did just say you're going to want to go to VSiN.com if you are a VSiN Pro to see what I'm playing exactly in that Sixers-Knicks game. Well, that is an offer that can help you do it. Let's move on to Spurs-Hawks now at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. This is a game where San Antonio is laying 2.5 points. The total is 240.5. And I view this game very similarly to the one that I just talked about. I think this is a really tough spot for San Antonio, playing their third game in 4 nights. This is a team that had to go from Vegas to San Antonio to Atlanta, just not an easy travel schedule. I think that, the Hawks had to go to Charlotte last night, had to go back to, Atlanta. That is nothing compared to what the Spurs have had to do, especially when you throw on San Antonio's win over Oklahoma City, a close, hard-fought loss to New York the other night. I think the Spurs team is going to be fatigued, even though they are a little bit younger. I just think taxing travel, taxing week, that's stuff that is really hard to overcome in the NBA, especially when you're playing a team like the Hawks that can get out and run, does have some, lengthy athletic players on the wing. And this is also an Atlanta team that I do think is better than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And San Antonio is just 0-4-1 against the spread as a road favorite this season. And they're also 2-3 against the spread when playing 3 games in 4 nights. So this situation has not been very kind to them. I know that the Hawks are going to be without Kristaps Porzingis, and they might be without Trae Young. It is the second leg of a back-to-back. Maybe they will want to pull him out, but I do think that overall the injury report is going to look pretty good for Atlanta, and that gives me a really, really strong lean to the Hawks. And if that injury report is somewhat clean, I'm going to be jumping on the money line with Atlanta. I just think that this Hawks team can beat the Spurs tonight, especially given everything that San Antonio has been through, and that's plus 125 right now. Maybe, a positive injury report bumps it down a little bit, but I think you're going to get plus money odds on Atlanta. And I do think that the Hawks should probably be favorites. And I think that you're asking a lot of this young Spurs team to go out and win this game on the road after everything they've done this week. Fourth game that I want to speak about is the Bulls at the Cavaliers. Cleveland is laying 7.5 in this one. The total is 240.5. You have a pretty loaded injury report for the Cavaliers once again. I mean, Evan Mobley is going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks. Sam Merrill remains out for this team. Max Strus remains out for this team. And Donovan Mitchell is actually listed as questionable with an illness, which leads me to my play of Darius Garland over 29.5 points and assists at minus 120 odds. I took this the other night in this same exact matchup. It was Cavaliers at Bulls last time. It is now Bulls at Cavs. Garland only finished with 15 points and 6 assists in that game. It seemed like he was stuck on those numbers forever because he had it in the third quarter and ended up with nothing else the rest of the game. But I do think that playing at home and playing with the bigger role will wake him up a bit. I think that this is a player that definitely needs some confidence right now, and playing in Cleveland with that home crowd will definitely help him, knock down some shots and just kind of feel a little bit looser as a playmaker and shot creator. And I did say that, I played this the other night. That was when it was down at 27.5. It's up at 29.5 for a reason. That's because they expect a bounce back performance from Garland. And like I said, Mitchell does have an illness, and whether that means he's going to miss this game or play, at less than 100%, I think you could count on Garland having more on his shoulders, whether it's, a little bit on his shoulders or a ton. There will be more. Like, he's going to have to carry the load a little bit more for this Cavaliers team. And I said all of this the other day, but this is a really good matchup for, a scoring offensive minded guard, one that can make plays, because this Bulls team plays at the second fastest pace in the NBA. They're also down at 24th in the NBA in defensive rating. I just think that this is a game where you could really count on Garland to get some good looks, and hopefully he's burying them. I know he has not been doing so this season, but I think he will here. As far as the side and total goes in this one, it's actually interesting. I'd be leaning Chicago, if anything, just because I think that Cleveland's been really hard to trust over the last couple of games. I mean, they are coming off of 4 consecutive non-covers heading into this one. No Mobley means worse defense for this team. So I do think 7.5 is a lot. I'm just not going to take it. I'm only going to take that Garland prop. Last game of the night, it's the Thunder taking on the Timberwolves at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. This is a game where the Timberwolves are 7.5-point underdogs at home. Total is 231.5. I wish that I had something for you in this game, but I don't. I mean, this is a game where Anthony Edwards is once again listed as questionable, and he missed the game the other night when I thought he would be coming back against Memphis. So I don't really want to just guess that he's going to be out there. They seem to be being very cautious with this right foot injury they're trying to manage with him. I will say, if Edwards doesn't play, I'd be all over Dante DiVincenzo props, and I'm going to be, adding that if I don't see Edwards out there. So that's another reason to head over to VSiN.com later. If you see Edwards is ruled out, head over there. I will add something on DiVincenzo, because DiVincenzo's averaging 18.1 points per game in the 7 games he's played without Edwards this season. He's scored 18 plus points in the last 5 of those games. He has also had at least 4 assists in the last, all 7 of the games he's played without Edwards, and he's had 6+ rebounds in the last 4 games he's played without Edwards. So he's just absolutely stuffing that stat sheet when Edwards doesn't play. And I do think that while this point, rebounds, and assist total is, 19.5 right now, if it climbs to 24.5 without Edwards, I think that would be an easy over still. So I'm keeping an eye on Edwards' status. And I will say, like, if Edwards does play and that line doesn't move too far off of 7.5, I'd also be kind of interested in Minnesota, because I think that OKC, while they did not make the finals of the Vegas, the NBA Cup in Vegas, they were there. They did play in the semifinals, and they've played a little bit more basketball than the Timberwolves had over the last, week or so. So I do think this is a game that kind of, favors Minnesota from a rest standpoint. Before we recap our best bets, if you're breaking down usage rates, defensive matchups, and pace, put that analysis to work on Better Picks. Pick more or less on player points, assists, and rebounds, then track the number in real time. Use code VSINPOD for $10 free, no deposit required. And with 1,000x multipliers, 2 sharp reads can turn into real payouts. Basketball just got better. Download the Better app and use code VSINPOD. That's BETR for the Better app, and VSINPOD for the code. And we have that in the description, as I mentioned before. We are going to now run down our best bets for this evening. I have 2 player props for tonight, so it is a good time to jump on Better and take advantage of that $10 free. But it starts with Davion Mitchell over 8.5 points at plus 104 against the Celtics. Then I have the 76ers plus 5 at minus 110 versus the Knicks. Then Darius Garland over 29.5 points and assists at minus 120 against the Bulls. And then I did mention there's a few other plays I'm monitoring. I might add some stuff to my columns over at VSiN.com. I'm always a threat to do that. I'm always kind of diving into the numbers and seeing if there's more stuff that I could add throughout the day, because I'm always hunting for value. I'm always hunting for action, but I do want it to be smart action, so I won't be forcing anything. But make sure you head over there a little bit later if you're interested in seeing if I had anything before the tips. But other than that, hopefully we build off last night's $3 profit. Huge night. You can go grab 3 Arnold Palmers if you're thirsty. But it was not a greatest night, not a bad night, but hopefully we end the week on a positive note. But if you are looking for more picks over the weekend, I will have Saturday and Sunday columns up at VSiN.com with all of my best bets and player props. So plenty of content coming from me, and we'll be back with a Monday episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Enjoy your weekend, and definitely good luck with all of your plays tonight.